Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode here at Tribal Trades, the daily show. I wanted to extend a warm welcome to wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Thank you for joining the channel today. We've got some exciting things to cover. Is the worst over? I'm going to talk about my thoughts about that. But before we jump into it, if you haven't smashed the like, you know what to do. You know the drill. Smash that like. Let's get this content out there. And of course, love reading all the comments and questions. I look to get to those as quickly as possible. And if you haven't subscribed and want to join our ever-growing community, smash that subscribe as well, and you'll be notified when there is a new video. I'm recording this quite a few hours after the close. This will go live in about 5-6 hours. And so I just wanted to go over some of the news that came out of today and some of the price action and some of the thoughts. I've updated the cheat sheet as well with a new tab, kind of like a buy the dip tab or buy the Black Swan event tab. I almost called it the Black Swan tab, but I didn't. I just called it the swing trading tab. So just it could have been dramatic Black Swan tab, but then a lot of people would have been asking about that. I just thought this was easier. Okay, we're going to get into. I digress. Let's jump into some news. First of all, Bitcoin dominance. I've talked about Bitcoin dominance a fair bit, and when Bitcoin dominance is up and the Bitcoin price is down, alts get obliterated. And so you've got to be very careful. Here we have Bitcoin dominance has soared to nearly 60%, hitting a yearly high. This surge up from 51% on Friday comes as digital assets and global equities take a dive. So be very careful. We'll have a little bit look at Bitcoin dominance when we look at the charts a little bit later. But certainly when Bitcoin dominance is pumping, sometimes it's better not to try and catch a falling knife as alts came crashing down. And so that actually was the case just over the last 24 to 48 hours that the dip kept dipping there with the Bitcoin dominance. We also have created a new CME gap. I've told you before how CME gaps tend to get filled. And so this CME gap now is above price. It's 59,400 to 62,550. When will we fill it? How quickly will we fill it? Certainly that is the question, but certainly I do see that gap getting filled sooner rather than later. And I said that exactly about the last CME gap. I was surprised that we took off to 70K before coming back and filling it, but I did say that I thought it would be filled sooner rather than later. And I got asked about the cup and handle in the Discord quite a lot earlier today, and I said it's a little bit early to ask. Usually cup and handles get invalidated when price goes heavily against it, and it had, but of course it ended up being a bit of a wick. So we have, I believe, and I still think it's intact as well for now. I did say it's a little bit early to say, and it was a little bit early to say. So we can certainly see that we're still intact. The wick came down here and we didn't keep going, and that would have invalidated it. So I still think it's intact there. If we come up, you could still form that handle there. Certainly we could even do that and then pop off there and fulfill it. But certainly keep an eye on that. Look, in situations like that where I feel it's a bit of a black swan event, sometimes TA and that kind of stuff just goes out the window, and it's just pure bloodshed out there as fear, as people were panic selling, and the price just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. But certainly once the market stabilizes, this can be quite a bullish catalyst that people can look at, bring some confidence back in the market, and maybe begin to send price a little bit higher. So based on that, some of the stronger coin bounces. What were some of the stronger coins that bounce? Solana, Ondo, Tia, Pro, and Tau. 4 of those 5 are on my cheat sheet, just an FYI. If you've been following my cheat sheet, I identified 4 of those tokens are on my cheat sheet. Strong tokens, had strong bounces, and so I think that's important to keep an eye on. And particular Tau, I think, has had a very, very strong bounce, and that is one that I love the tokenomics on. Only 21 coins supplied, just like Bitcoin, and it mines just like Bitcoin. It's an AI token. And so, so that was one that I have been accumulating this dip, and I will show that on my cheat sheet pretty soon. All right, so here we have the fear and greed index 17. Extreme fear. This is actually one of my local bottom signals, and we'll actually talk about that a little bit later on when we cover the price action. Certainly, when it comes to local bottom signals, this could well have been the bottom. Can we go lower? It's possible. Usually, I would say I would be very happy to say, hey, we're at or close to a local bottom. I can't quite say that because I do feel that there is a bit of a black swan event and we could go a little bit lower. But I still do think we are, even if we do go a little bit lower, I don't see us going much lower than the 49K that we set, maybe down to the 47, 45. Although from where we are now, which is we're trying to push up to 56K, it would be a fairly significant drop, of course. But certainly just be wary of that. And of course, what started this all was the Japanese stock market. And it has had a nice rebound today in opening, and it's on a different time zone, of course. And so the bounce is in, it's higher. So the Japanese stocks explode higher and on track for bigger gains since October. So it's gone from biggest crash in history to a fairly decent recovery. So let's see how that plays out over the night as it trades, and it continues to trade there. That'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But that is positive because that we could well see a bounce in the US stock market as well. Certainly that would be interesting. But the main thing for me is this. Look, the crypto market sold off purely on fear over the weekend. Fear that the stock market was going to open up. It was going to be Black Monday. It was going to crash. And everybody just panic sold. And the stock market actually, the pre-trading and the futures trading actually did sell off quite a bit. But guess what happened when the stock market opened? People bought the dip. And so, just be very, very wary. You can't control people panic selling and the price dropping in front of you. And you don't want to be the silly one that's holding, I could have sold it and then bought it back lower. I understand that. But certainly fear plays such a powerful role. If we look at this here, today's candle is very similar to that formed in the 2020 crash. Ouch. This is the S&P 500. And you can't deny it. Certainly looks very close to what happens. Let's hope we don't get the same situation happening. But I will say this, that the Fed in this situation would step in and they would cut rates and print money. And so any drop, any dip, I feel would be something to look to pick up in that situation. And I certainly had added stocks to my cheat sheet, and some of those buys got hit there, certainly with that. So as you can see, I think the stock market, it was a good opportunity to dollar cost average in. Not deploying all the capital, just dollar cost average buys. As you can see, the S&P 500 closes 3% lower, and that was mostly through pre-market trading. In reality, I got most of my orders in pre-market trading, and then when the market opened, I got a few more in there because, and we'll see in a minute, a lot of the trading platforms were down. The crypto exchanges went down, but the trading platforms were down, and I had to wait a little bit to get in some of those trades. Some of those trades I did have the buys in already set, by the way. So a lot of them got triggered. It was just a couple of buys that I didn't have previously set that I jumped in. I actually picked up some micro strategy, which I haven't actually added to the cheat sheet, and I will add shortly. And I also added a little bit more Soundhound, which I had a lot of, and I got around $1, and I think it rode it up to about $10, and then have been accumulating back in the dip. But you can see here that it will enter a bear market if it falls 7.5% from current levels. And we went from all-time highs to just in such a short space of time, in less than 1 month, the S&P 500 has erased $5 trillion in market cap. That's more than the entire market cap of crypto. So that's pretty incredible when you think of it, what's happened there in the stock market. And like I said before, some of the stock platforms became inaccessible. Tell me if you couldn't access yours. I could not access Schwab. And so that was a little bit of a pain. But I was able to access the rest. Moo and Webull, no problem. And a couple of other trading platforms. But it took me a while to get onto Schwab. And then when I got on, I was able to make those a couple of purchases that weren't previously known. This is the importance of having all your buy orders set up in your crypto exchange, in your stock exchanges, so you know what you're doing ahead and advance. And I say this, and I'll say this again, know what your budget is. Okay, this is both for crypto and for stocks. Know what you're buying and how much you're spending on each one. Number three, know what your buy levels are going to be and set them up in your exchange, either stock brokerage or crypto exchange, beforehand, okay, so that they'll just get hit automatically whatever you're doing, sleeping, whatever you're driving, this, here, there, you'll just buy the dip automatically. And then make sure you have, once you've accumulated and you've bought everything and you've scaled in, you've built your position, you've built a strong foundation of solid buys, and where you bought weakness, you bought fear, you bought the dip, now you can sell the pumps, and you have all those sell levels set up. So very important. Okay, so and also the volatility index, the VIX, just hit its third highest level in history. So I certainly think in history, this is the stock market history. So yeah, do I think it was a good time to dip into the dip for stocks? I do. And we will definitely look at that on my cheat sheet in a moment here. There was obviously sell orders that are above us on Bitcoin. Anybody ready for round two? Don't shoot the messenger. And there are some big sell orders above that could drop the price. We'll look at that in a little moment on charts, and I'll show you where those sell orders are and where we can expect some resistance to the upside. Also, the Bitcoin sell-off was pretty historic. Today's sell side volume marks the third highest in the cycle. The second highest seller volume was in mid-March, and the highest selling volume was achieved right at the bear market bottom of November 2022. And it was a pretty epic sell-off, and maybe we're not done. Let's see. All right, so then we have the Bitcoin and ETH had both tanks. Bitcoin has dropped to around 50K. Obviously, it went down a little bit lower than that, 32% decline from its peak, marking its largest drop since November 2022. So that was a very significant drop. Ethereum also dropped, and the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing absolutely took a hammering there as well, not down to a level not seen since April 2021. And so I really feel the price of ETH was manipulated heavily in that sell-off, largely in part to jump capital, which I didn't realize until just I shared it, I think, yesterday's video, that they started selling Ethereum right after the ETF launch, and they dumped all their Ethereum on holders. And so everybody's expecting the Ethereum ETF to pump, and they just completely suppressed and manipulated the price. So that was very disappointing to hear, and a big reason why ETH has dropped so heavily there as well. And then we got the MVRV. I don't often look at this. It's not an indicator that I actively track, but I do like when people do share about it. I do think it's a very good indicator. But based on the MVRV pricing band, Bitcoin needs to reclaim 54,000 support to prevent a drop to 40,000. If the 54,000 support holds, the key resistance on the upside for Bitcoin is 67,000. And so, yeah, and I would say that I'm not saying that we'll drop to 40,000, and I'll go through some of the levels. It's possible. I'll go through, and maybe we can wick there, but certainly a close at that 40,000 level would be very bearish in my opinion, and I'll go through some of my thoughts fairly soon. Now, what caused all this? Obviously, the Japanese market was the yen carry trade. And the yen carry trade is what people have been profiting off for a while. And I'm going to show a video about it in a moment. But the stock markets around the world are crashing. But why? The answer to this question is the yen carry trade, a term you probably hear many times this week. And what exactly is the yen carry trade, and why did it cause the market to downturn? And here we have a pretty amazing video. I'm just going to play this here. Video, I think it's very much shows the yen carry trade in 90 seconds. I don't think there's any sound on this. There isn't. So you can see that traders borrow money for 0%. So they borrow the yen for 0%, and then they buy other assets. borrow yen, 1 billion yen, convert to USD, buy an asset, and make 5%, and you make 276,000 profit a year. For 30 years, I believe the yen has been 0%. But what if the USD yen goes down? Then you're in trouble because you're now borrowing at a percentage interest rate. And now you've got 500K in loss as a result because A, the value of the US dollar against the yen tanks, 138,000 loss per year, the yen carry trade. What if three all happen at once? What if we see a dump in the USD yen and the USD assets fall and the yen yield rises because the Japanese Fed decided to raise interest rates? And so that's what happened. So people had to dump. So all these people had used yen and borrowed yen on the Japanese market, and they had then bought USD, US dollars, and they had bought into US dollar assets. They essentially now suddenly had to dump all of that to pay back their yen because the USD yen chart tanked and they had interest that they had to pay on that money, and then those assets dropped as well, as we saw. And so that's basically what happened. And now we've seen a little bit of a rebound in the Japanese stock market. Let's see if there's more trailing, though, in the US stock market. But that's why you saw what happened, and that's what brought fear into the crypto market in particular over the weekend, that there was going to be a bloody sell-off in the stock market, and there could be more sell-off to come. There are some pretty scary prices here. Well, bounce areas for Bitcoin. Bounce, not same thing as reversal. You can see some pretty low areas here. Certainly, I would be more inclined that we could hold up around these mid to lower 40s range there, though. So I'm certainly not thinking we go as low as there. But of course, if the economy does truly crash and the bull market could be over, you do need to be prepared for that. Like I say, expect for the best and prepare for the worst. I watched a trader, and he came online and got liquidated 40,000. He wasn't prepared for the dump and got completely liquidated and lost that entire $40,000. And so prepare for expect the best, but prepare for the worst. Have a plan. The Bitcoin RSI, its lowest level since September 2023. The last time RSI was this low, Bitcoin was at 25,000. So that's the second thing that I look at to determine market lows or market bottoms or local lows is, is the RSI low, and is the fear and greed index, are we in extreme fear? So those are 2 out of 2 so far have pinged for me, and we'll share the other ones in just a moment here. And then we have the ETF outflows. Somebody had asked about that, and there was some outflows there. So we could see some selling pressure based off that. US spot Bitcoin ETF says single biggest day outflow in 90 days. Crypto market cap registered largest daily drop since 2022, and crypto investment products saw 520 million in net weekly outflows. Absolutely savage. Okay, so just keep that in mind with all of those things, that those news events. All right, we're going to jump into some of the charts now. And so let's jump over to that, and we're just going to look at the Bitcoin chart today, and we're going to look at the cheat sheet as well in a moment. But as you can see here, we had the hash ribbons buy indicator that flashed, and usually that means the Bitcoin takes off. But sometimes it dumps first. But when it dumps, it usually doesn't dump below the close of the previous local bottom. And the close of the previous local bottom is around 55,900, just under actually. And we did close below that. However, I will say this, that the hash ribbons buy signal has rarely failed. In fact, it's only failed 3 out of 19 times in Bitcoin's history it's failed. And one of those times was the COVID crash. I haven't looked into the other 2 times because it wasn't in the past 2 cycles, this cycle and last cycle. So it's only failed once since 2019, and I haven't gone any further back than that. But the time that it failed back in 2019, if we actually go back to that, and just going to be very quick here with this, Hey, we're going to go in our time machine and go back to 2019 to the COVID crash. We had the hash ribbons buy signal flash. We were going up, no problem. We had the local bottom, but bang, we had the crash and we went lower than the local bottom, invalidating. But then we went and got one fairly quickly, and usually they don't come around that fast. And we got another one and then another one. And each time we didn't go back below the local low. And if we actually move forward now and look at the next time we had one, here we just took off. Over here we just took off again. So that was pretty good. And then there's a long time before we have another one, all the way from 2 years later. 2 years later, so they don't have them very often. We just went up, so that was good. And then, but you can see that there are sometimes we go down. So on this one here, August of 2023, we went down first before parabolic going up, but we didn't go below the previous local low. Okay. And then if we move forward to the one that we've just had, we have gone below the previous local low. But I think this was a black swan event. So I actually think this can still play out to the upside. I'm not going to be bearish about this. I think we still can play it to the upside. It does mean that possibly we might still have some downside. So let's look at the charts now there with the hash ribbons. And so number one, when we look at this, we see that on the Lux algo on the daily, we've got the big sell signal. I shared that the other day. So there's a couple of things. The first level that we have break the upside is this 55,900. Break above that. That is resistance right now. That's resistance right now. We got to get above that. If we get above that, test that as support, and then, but to be really, for me to swing bullish, we got to get above around 59,600, above the 200 EMA on the daily, which has been a real strong level and area to buy in any bull market. And again, this is probably my third local bottom. We got the fear and greed index. We're in extreme fear there. So, and then we have the 200 EMA on the daily getting tagged. We have the RSI in the floor. Boom, 1, 2, both the stock and the daily RSI in the floor. So there are three indicators of a local low or a good buy the dip kind of situation. Now, if we break above that, then I think we're back and running, and we're going to resume what I think should have been. I don't think this should have been as big a dip. I think we may have come down to here and then taken off. But I think this whole Japan thing sent this into a black swan, just like we saw. Now, is the selling over? Is the worst over? That's a very good question here. Maybe not. Now, if we reject here, now we'll go into the bearish situation. That's the bullish situation. The bearish situation, and there is some sell pressure above, and the sell pressure obviously is going to be the biggest sell orders are set at $56,000 to $58,000. Okay, $56,000 to $58,000. Remember, the CME gap is up at 59,500 to 62,500. So just above that. So before we get that CME gap, there is some sell pressure there. So certainly be aware of that. 56 to 58K. And as you can see, we're struggling to break through that 56K area. There is some sell orders there, but we're not dumping. So that's always a good thing. Okay. And so so that's the upside. Now we come down. Now, if we can't break above this and we push down, lose this trend line. Look at this trend line. This is my trend line, by the way, that I put in, and it's been there for a long time. And just see price has really respected that trend line. We haven't had a close below it. We haven't had a close below it since we broke above it all the way back here in November 2023. So it's been a long time since we have not had a candle close below that trend line. We wicked below it, but we haven't closed below it. Okay, so where are we heading now? Okay, so if we do lose this, there is a possibility. Scenario one is that we come and fill half of this wick at around 51K and create a lower high. That would be the best case scenario, is to come down here, create a lower high, and then come up, have another attempt to break through, maybe sit around this for a little while and then break up and continue on. Scenario number two is we break and we create a lower low. That would be quite a bearish situation for me. And there are liquidation levels, more longs that can be liquidated between 45,800 and 47,500. So around this area right here, a little bit lower than this wick, down to around about here, 45,500. For those of you just listen and are able to watch, you listen in the car, to 47,500. And really, this is where I would expect, if we were to go lower, that we should find a proper reversal. This is a pretty good stopping volume candle here, though. This is a pretty good wick. Let's see what happens. There could be more sell-off, more fear. There's all the Israel and Iran situation going on as we speak, and that could cause some market volatility, okay? And then if we go any lower than that, I really do feel we'll find some support around that 42 to 44 region there. And I would be really shocked if we went low, because we're coming down to some bear market territory here. If we were to come down to this 38,000 where the 200 moving average on the weekly is, I mean, that's usually where that's kind of a bit of a bear market indicator for me. So again, do not trade what you cannot afford to lose. Make sure you have a plan. So I've talked about 3 of my local bottom indicators. What are some of the other ones that I have? Some of the other ones that I have is the fear and greed index, which I just said has usually been a good time to buy whenever there's been fear. We see the Bitcoin price is down and then it's jumped up, and then we're in extreme fear, we're down again. Anytime we've seen there's the Bitcoin price down when it's fear, and it goes up in greed, and then up and more greed, and that's always a good time to sell. Come back, there's fear, there's a little yellow line there, little yellow lines there. So when we're in fear, extreme fear, they've tended to be good times to accumulate. Again, I wouldn't go all in at one go with all the money at once, but certainly that's been a good time to indicate. So the 4th indicator that I have for my local bottom by the dip is, the last 2, and we'll look at these together, is the open interest. Certainly that's the leverage positions when it gets flushed out here. Certainly that can be a good buy the dip opportunity. You can see we just got the open interest got completely flushed out down here, had a little bit of dip, but also can mean we can see people start to add to their positions again, and there can certainly be some more buy the dip scenarios there as well. And then the last one is the funding rate there. And look, sometimes there can be others, the 200. Sometimes we're not on the 200 EMA. We might be on the 50-day moving average, for example. So the funding rates obviously have gone negative here, and this has generally always been a good time to buy the dips whenever the funding rates have gone negative there. And you can actually see on this chart here, when we go to the funding rates over here, we can see a little bit more accurate because it actually the price is overlaid on the funding rates. But whenever the funding rates have turned negative here, you can see the price has always been quite low. There's the dip there with the funding rates low, and again the funding rates are negative, and the price is quite low as well. Okay, so let's jump over to my cheat sheet here. While we have, we'll go. There's the cheat sheet. So I've added some stuff to the cheat sheet here, which I like, and I wanted to share with you. And so, as you can see here, I added the stock section about a week ago. I had no idea the stock crash was coming. That was just great timing to get that in there. Hit. Not all of them, but quite a few of them, I should say, and some of them got close. I think Google almost made it down to 150, but some of these still may get hit. And look, here's the thing. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Some people, it grosses people out. It grosses me out. Some people love it when I say it, but those who try and pick bottoms get smelly fingers. And when the stock market went down heavily in 2022, I was buying Coinbase really low and Tesla really low. Meta, I think, up ridiculously high on Meta. I bought that for super low. And here's the thing. I didn't buy the bottom. I don't think I bought the bottom on any of those stocks. I know for Coinbase, my bottom buy was like $60. And it went down to like $30. I didn't buy it at 30. I was like, this thing could keep going down. I'm going to wait. And it didn't keep going down. I'd used up all the capital. See, I had my plan and I stuck to it. And so I think my average buy was 60. I didn't quite get the $30 buy, and that's okay. Maybe I got it at 50 or 40. But my average was 60. And it's gone up to like almost $300. And now it's pulled back, and I've added some more today. But it's about building a good foundation, a solid foundation. It's about, and this for me is investing. It's not trading. it's all trading, but it's the investing side of trading. Now, if I was swinging trade this, that would be different. I'd be in and out of a trade. And I don't do that with stocks at the moment. I only do that with crypto. And so I do by chance happen to have the swing trade. And I've added that today. And so why these 9 tokens here? And there's a reason I've identified these 9 tokens, just off a few criteria. Criteria number 1, and was able to roll that into other strong tokenomics. This is the case, Arweave, Banana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Injective, Casper, Render, Solana, Tau, all have the supply is not too high, and the most of the supply is out. In the case of Arweave, 100% is out. Casper, 100% is out. Bitcoin obviously has small supply, 21 million, but it gets mined. Tau is the same, 21 million. Only 21 million coins will ever be for Tau, and I've got some of those. I'm bullish on Tau there, and it had one of the best rebounds in the market today, and certainly those are some buy levels there. And then I've got some stop losses here, so you don't get wrecked in case we have a real black bear market. You can keep your losses to a minimum. Okay, so I have done that simply because of the event that we're seeing right now with the yen trade, the way that it's going. So that's those there. Banana only has a supply of 10 million. There's not a lot of it in circulation, I know, but it's got small supply, and that which isn't in circulation is locked. Okay, and I don't know if it's ever going locked. So just keep that in mind. So that's what I've gotten there. I just want to keep it easy and simple. I don't want to be trading too many coins in this. I just wanted to add these as trades for you, especially those people you're there and you're like, well, I don't want to wait for it to get back above the 200 EMA and then fill the CME gap. By that time, alts will have taken off. I've missed the buy the dip opportunity. Here's an opportunity for you to ladder in, to scale in, to buy the dip, have stop loss. So if it goes way lower and the market just crashes, you'll get out at minimal loss. And if this was the bottom or was close to the bottom, then you've got some really good prices here. So I think this is a win-win situation for everybody. I was trying to think what would be to let you in on these trades and to help those that really wanted to buy the dip. Now, certainly if there's other tokens that you want to swing trade and enough people do suggest it, I'll look to adding it here, but I'm certainly going to be reluctant to add coins that do not have strong tokenomics. And just by the way, even though Solana and Ethereum is out there, they don't have a max supply, so they can keep adding to their supply, and they have been adding to their supply. So imagine you just print more Solana tokens. You're just up there and you think, I'm just going to print some more Solana tokens, and you're just printing money and you sell it into the market. Somebody buys it and you just walk away with the money. So Solana and Ethereum also have a little bit of a concern there with they don't have a max supply, but they are the 2 most popular blockchains on the network. Maybe at some point they will cap their supply off. I hope that they do, or they burn some of that supply, or I know they have some deflationary measures and some burn mechanisms in place, but certainly it's always a concern. Bitcoin, 21 million, that's all it's ever going to be. And same with Tau and some of the others. They've released all the supply. They've capped their max supply. So, yeah, I would definitely like to see that with more of the others. Alrighty. Well, we're just going to finish with Bitcoin dominance here. And very important to note that with Bitcoin dominance, when Bitcoin dominance is crushing it like it is right now, we've had a small pullback. So we'll kind of zoom in there so we can kind of see there is a little bit of a stopping volume candle there. So we might be seeing, I wouldn't be surprised if we came back to around this level of 53%. But to really break down, for alts to really have a run, we need to create a lower low, really drop below, what do we hear about, if we get down at 5%, that would be a little bit of a 4 hour. Can we get a lower low here on the 4 hour? Let's just have a look. On the 4 hour, lower low would be coming down here. Yeah. So a lower low here on the 4 hour would be 56, anything below 56.71%. And then we would be creating a lower low there. Obviously, even better if we come back down below this 56.41% and on the daily. So certainly there is signs of a reversal there, and that's why some of the altcoins are starting to do a whole lot better. Okay, we have got a little bit of a sign of a reversal, but we came up and peaked, we came down, and then we've come up again. We saw this drop here, and all it did was create a lower high. So we really need to either, in my opinion, on the 4 hour, on the daily, create a lower low there, and then we might have some kind of reversal there and just cool off a little bit. Remember, when Bitcoin dominance, when prices in a correction, alts will suffer. And so it's always important. Yesterday, I was reminding people we do not want to catch a falling knife. And while it was doing this, the altcoins were going to continue to dump. All the support levels were just going to get smashed through and keep dumping. And I said in the Discord, and if those of you are not in the Discord, I really encourage you to get in the Stocks with Josh Discord, and you can sign up. It's in the link. My cheat sheet is in the link in the description as well. I really encourage you to sign up for the Discord. I was sharing a lot yesterday and the day before on Sunday about not catching a falling knife, and that while Bitcoin dominance was going up, altcoins were going crash. Even when Bitcoin dominance goes up and the Bitcoin price stays still or goes up, alts are going to suffer. But I tell you what, there's nothing worse for alts than Bitcoin dominance going up, Bitcoin price going down. Alts will ultimately just crash down. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope that helped. I know this was a little longer, but I just felt there was a lot of information to get out there to help people make decisions. And certainly, let's see what happens in the stock market, which is going to be opening by the time this video goes out in just a couple of hours. We could get a bit of an idea on the pre-market. In my opinion, these local bottom signals are certainly worthy of putting some capital in for losses there as well. So as always, until the next video, happy trading.